Hello, everyone, and welcome to 18-Minute Experts, the podcast that dives into the minds of industry leaders in the wonderful world of group benefits. I'm your host, Matthew Butters, and today I'm joined by a couple of industry thought leaders who are ready to share their experience and insights on the topic of health and wellness. But before we jump into the conversation, a quick reminder to our listeners. If you enjoy the content, please subscribe on Spotify and YouTube or Apple Podcasts. You can also catch us at www.peoplecorporation.com/18minexperts. If you're feeling ultra generous, please leave us a review. Your feedback guides us as we try to provide the best benefits-focused content available. Now, grab your headphones and let's jump in. Judy, Allison, thank you very much for joining me today. Your two great guests are experts in wellness from People Corporation. A formal introduction is definitely warranted. Judy Plotkin and Allison Rue. And we're not just talking about general wellness today. Judy and Allison, you're going to provide us with some key insights for our listeners that we should consider when having the debate about weight. So with that, Judy, Allison, would you be able to tell the listeners a little bit about yourself?
Absolutely. Thank you. So I'm Judy Plotkin. I have been here at People Corp for 7 years. I have spent pretty much my whole career in the health and wellness space, working in disability, recovery management, return to work, EAP, mental health, occupational health and safety. So I'm pretty passionate about health and wellness and have been really enjoying my time at People Corp, working with benefits consultants to sort of bring innovative health solutions to their clients.
That's incredible. Allison?
Hi, everyone. My name is Allison Rue, and I am the Director of Health Solutions here at People Corporation, working specifically with partnerships. Over the last 14 or so years, I've been working with employees at various organizations, helping them to identify and support the journey towards positive lifestyle change. And I think the conversation about how organizations can have an integral role in that journey is something that we'll really dive into today.
So thank you for the lovely introductions. It brings me tremendous joy that, as always, we have two experts on 18-Minute Experts. So, to jump in, you just reminded me, I was spending some time with my family and I heard my son in another room, 8 years old, and excuse my singing voice, but he was singing, oh, 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 Ozempic. And I don't know, if anybody else has heard that commercial, but that meant to me, that this particular drug that we hear so much about in our industry has made it out of the clinical world and into like the common realm of pop culture, right? 8 years old. So, I often find too, I open up the news and it's Ozempic, it's Wegovy, it's diabetes, it's weight loss, and there's a ton of different angles that these topics are being tackled from. But to kind of level set and set a foundation for everybody listening, and for myself, Judy, would you be able to help us understand the basics about these drugs, kind of what they are, why we're talking about them so much?
Yeah, absolutely. And that's an amazing story. I mean, the magic of marketing and the power of marketing as out of the mouths of babes. So that's pretty amazing. We have seen I don't even know, a revolution. I mean, it's just been absolutely huge, the impact of something called the GLP-1 agonist, which is an Ozempic or the similar version of Ozempic that is used for weight loss, which is called Wegovy. And I know many amongst us get all of that confused, which is which. And I think when Ozempic first came out, very quickly people realized that not only was it incredibly helpful for diabetics in terms of lowering blood sugar, but it also was super effective for weight loss and for helping people. I think the word that people used was lower their food noise, right? So help people not be thinking about food, help people feel satiated. And so people very quickly thought, I'm going to get my hands on Ozempic. Today, we've got a little bit of a cleaner understanding that Ozempic essentially is a diabetes medication. And Wegovy, which is the exact same molecule, but a different dosage, is used for weight loss.
Okay.
So there's both Ozempic and Wegovy, both the same molecule, one more on the diabetic side and the other for weight loss. Usually that's not a situational weight loss. I mean, this is not a aesthetic weight loss. This is weight loss for people who have a body mass indicator of over 30. So a BMI over 30. So that's people really struggling with their weight clinically. So it's a clinical solution.
Okay.
There's other drugs around you may hear of. There's a GLP-1 called Rybelsus, which is very similar to Ozempic, but it's taken orally.
Is that the one? That's another commercial that I just realized. Ask your doctor about Rybelsus.
Yes.
And they don't say what it is, but now you've taught me.
It's like Ozempic, but it's an oral dose. So I think that we're going to hear more about it. And then there's one other, which is a slightly different GLP-1 receptor agonist, so slightly different, called Mounjaro. And that's also a diabetes medication, very similar to Ozempic.
Right.
Likely those two drugs will come out with their weight loss equivalent, the same way Ozempic came out with Wegovy. So
okay,
that's a sort of lay of the land.
And that makes sense. You know what? That kind of helps me a little bit, at least knowing, the contributing science behind it, right? That these are similar molecules, perhaps pointed a little bit differently in terms of treatment plan. And, aside from you saying the target being for clinical, BMI over 30, it sounds to many probably like a miracle drug, right?
Yeah.
We went through a long time going back to the 90s with respect to body image and media. Like, it's a really, really important point for a lot of people, whether we vocalize it or not. Like, it's something that a lot of people think about more often than mental health experts would definitely want us to. So this is the kind of miracle that a lot of people have been waiting for a long time, whether it's for aesthetics, even if that's not what the drug's supposed to be for, or whether it's for their physical health. So everybody probably wants it. But we know just from being in the industry, and so do our listeners, group advisors, that there's some pushback from plan sponsors, group advisors about the inclusion of these types of drugs in traditional benefits plans. So knowing that employees and Canadians want it, but knowing that they're probably not included on a lot of benefit plans, what's the main concern from advisors and plan sponsors about including drugs like these in the plans?
Cost. I think that cost and end date. So I think, plan sponsors are all very different in how they approach it. I think we understand that when it's for a condition like diabetes, there's going to be a different approach to it. But for many years, weight loss medication was considered lifestyle, right? So it wasn't really seen as something that was helping a condition. So there's still a bit of reservation around, should we be including weight loss medication in our core plan? If yes, what's the risk to our plan design and our sustainability of that plan? And also, if yes, do people ever go off these drugs? This is a lifetime of this drug, in which every year we're going to have more and more people on it. And if they're on it for their lifetime, how do we afford the plan?
Because I think intuitively, a lot of people would think, okay, I take this drug, I lose the weight, right? But the consideration that not only is it costly, but that it might require maintenance, and then it's ongoing, right? And then you start bringing in more people and more people. It becomes, not financially tolerant for a lot of these group benefits plans. That makes a ton of sense. So I guess, there's always going to be some plan sponsors or even advisors that promote, really rich plan designs that maybe can afford to include that kind of coverage. But obviously there's going to be probably a majority that aren't comfortable with that kind of financial, investment into the plan. So how should group advisors be handling those conversations and addressing client concerns about, those weight loss situations and solutions where they can't afford to be including a Wegovy, for example, on an ongoing basis in the plan?
I understand. Absolutely. And there's lots of options that can start with plan design. So it can be that you do copay or that you do an annual cap. So you help a bit, but you don't have the whole burden of the cost. So you can look at literally different funding models. And then you can also look at what you can do to encourage behavior change so that people don't feel that this is a lifetime on this drug. So there's one, which is, how do you fund it in a way that's comfortable for you as a plan sponsor? And maybe that is a copay, and maybe that is a max. Like, there's things you can do there. And then there's things you can offer to employees to help them feel that this is not necessarily a lifetime of being on that drug.
I was just going to add that I think that it's important for a plan sponsor to recognize that there's a lot of opportunity for cost savings as well when there's somebody who is able to successfully lose weight and feel healthier and reduce their risk for chronic disease because they're able to be more productive at work. They're spending more time at work rather than being off sick or going to appointments or through lost productivity. So there is a lot of benefit to having individuals be able to successfully see results in other areas outside of the cost of the drug itself. And there's a lot of opportunity for a plan sponsor to see what they can do in maybe what family physicians aren't able to do. If you've been at a family doctor appointment, it's often very quick in and out. You're getting advice on what you should be doing. Like if it's weight that is the concern, the advice is given on why you should lose weight and why this is a concern, but there's not a lot of action on assisting somebody to being able to take those steps in achieving those goals. So there's a lot of opportunity for plan sponsors to see where they can put that piece to the puzzle in helping someone take the steps they need to achieve better health.
That's a really interesting approach to it too. And yeah, you actually hit on something earlier on that I had never considered before. I've had some of these conversations with a lot of different group advisors over the past, year to 2 years. And you mentioned not the financial cost of the drug, right? Which is now kind of a known quantity, but the financial impact from a positive perspective that in those particular situations that it can have on the employer, not just from a plan perspective for the use of other drugs, right? Or other services and physiotherapy or paramedical practitioners, but also the productivity of the employee, maybe workplace accommodations, things like that. So when our group advisors that are listening to this are considering, hey, here's X, the cost of Wegovy, right? Or other lifestyle drugs. Don't just consider X as dollars out. Consider potentially Y, the impact for particular employees that could be return on investment, because that's kind of what it is. You're investing in your employees and what the return will be to your company, to their well-being, and to your benefits plan as well.
It can even be correlated in terms of ROI to being off work. So short-term and long-term disability.
Sure, like a disability. Yeah,
absolutely. Because we do know that weight is something that makes us at risk for so many other very expensive health conditions, right?
Mm-hmm.
So your respiratory health, your cardiovascular health, the likelihood that you need other medications, just all these other things go up if you're not able to manage your weight. So you're right. I mean, the ROI for Wegovy or any of those weight loss medications that are emerging is probably much easier to build out because you are going to reduce the risk of so many other things, including, different claims, as well as potentially short and long-term disability.
A huge part of it is obviously trying to target that weight and the rest follows. And we're talking about weight loss, general wellness, but there's a common trend where people that are, whether they're just doing a really good diet and exercise regimen or they're taking these kind of drugs, the weight comes off really fast. But it tends to, we've all seen the story, right? Where it kind of comes back quickly sometimes too, if it's not maintained properly. So I think I'll ask Allison, what kind of support is available if a plan sponsor was looking to really wrap their arms around their benefits plan to look at, the contributing factors to weight gain? So sustainable health management, making sure that if somebody does lose weight, that they're able to keep it off. So what kind of support's available in that space?
Absolutely. When we're thinking about holistic plan design, we want to make sure that not only is there those pharmacological agents that can support weight loss, but the lifestyle management programs to help, like Judy said, hopefully get somebody off those medications or help them to successfully maintain or even lose more weight just through their lifestyle. So when we're talking about contributing factors to weight gain, we're often thinking about physical activity, sleep, stress management, and eating habits. So one thing that really sticks out in my mind is having a robust digital health platform. At People Corporation, we have one called Best Life Rewarded. With a health platform that includes an embedded health risk assessment, users are able to clearly answer some questions that identify top 3 health priorities and then point them in the direction of education or programs, or suggest different tracking tools that can help them understand what they can do to take action on their health and actually follow that over a period of time. And having that digital health program is often a stepping stone towards other programs that are available.
Right.
For instance, an employee assistance program, also known as an EAP. These programs are really beneficial because you can connect with a health coach or a fitness coach and work with someone at no cost to help put those desired behavior changes into action. And often this is underutilized. This is unknown for EAPs. Often people think about EAPs as mental health crisis support.
Right.
And yes, absolutely they are. But the work health life services embedded within them are a huge thing to point out when it comes to the lifestyle management component as well.
That's really so important, Allison. I mean, if you think about people who go down this path and they start to use a weight loss medication and start to experience some success, I can almost picture the door opening for them to now, engage in behavior change using a health platform that can help them, start to think cognitively about what's their relationship with exercise, or previously it might have seemed unattainable to be able to walk and get moving because you're heavy and it's hard for you in terms of your respiratory health, your joint health. Like, it might have not seemed possible, and now it is possible, because really the ideal approach is holistic. It's not just the medication. It has to be the medication plus, exploring your thoughts about how you eat, how you use food, how you get active, what is your lifestyle, what behaviors can you change, all happening together along with the medication. And that's really the best in terms of, people having the chance to make these changes and not be on the medication forever. It really has to be that holistic approach.
So, it sounds like we're kind of landing on a multifaceted approach to wellness, weight loss, and that is good, I guess, because, there's a variety of different types of advisors, types of plan sponsors. There's different approaches that they take to their benefits plan. So I have you captive today, both Judy and Allison. So as our experts, I'm going to defer to you and ask a pretty direct question, but what do you think then is kind of the most impactful combination of insurance coverage for these types of drugs, perhaps healthcare spending accounts, personal spending accounts, and wellness offerings that would appeal to the majority of Canadian benefit plan sponsors?
Well, we're, of course, big fans of wellness spending accounts, because you can really target those wellness dollars to things that you want your employees to engage in. So, they're always interesting. But if I had to say, sort of middle of the road, what could you do? Because we have to consider that today, most sponsors aren't covering weight loss medication. Most sponsors currently do still have it as a lifestyle drug.
Right.
So I would say, something right in the middle where you start to cover it depending on what you can afford. And maybe you cover it with a cap, an annual cap. So you put in something that you could afford so that people can still feel like, I'm getting support from my employer. They may not be paying for all of it, but they're paying for a good amount of it. So I don't have to say that because of finances, I can't take this drug. And then, really surrounding that by some good basic support programs like a health platform or an EAP, which many of your employers will have some of that already and maybe can add to it. So anything where they can engage, let's say, with a nutritionist or a social worker and start to talk about, how do I start to make these changes?
I like that. It's a journey. Right, Allison? Like, we're trying to enable people to do what they want to do. We can't do it for them.
Yeah, I also just wanted to highlight too that Obesity Canada indicated that the evidence-based research surrounding successful weight loss programs are pharmacological agents, ICBT, so cognitive behavioral therapy, and bariatric surgery. So when we're looking at plan designs, if we can do a little bit of a combination of pharmacological agents as well as cognitive behavioral therapy, that is, hitting two of those three things that Obesity Canada indicated as evidence-based success when it comes to weight loss. And ICBT programs are often embedded within employee assistance programs. And these self-led, self-guided courses often include topics on weight management, diabetes management, sleep, physical activity, all things that contribute to the overall picture of weight and really help start having somebody think about themselves as somebody who is active, who is eating well,
I really like that,
is healthy and has a healthy weight, instead of having them continue to think of themselves as having those unhealthier behaviors or poorer identities. So just switching that mindset helps to switch behaviors.
That's fantastic. Judy, Allison, thank you so much for sharing your expertise and insights today. To our listeners, if there's one takeaway from today, it's that health truly is wealth. Navigating the balance between cost, coverage, and care is not always easy. But with the right strategies that you learned about today and solutions, there's a way forward that works for everyone, plan sponsors, advisors, and employees alike. Judy, Allison, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And there you have it, folks. Another episode of 18-Minute Experts is in the books. Remember, the insights shared here are just the beginning of our journey together. To stay updated on future episodes, hit that subscribe button on YouTube, Spotify, or Apple Podcasts. When it comes to navigating the complexities of group benefits, knowledge is power. Stay curious, stay informed, and stay empowered. Until next time.